Hey guys, how's it going? So how about the last episode or season of Squid Game, huh? Season 2 was wild. I have a few thoughts I'd like to share about it, and then I'll give you my theories on Squid Game Season 3, which I'm to believe comes out in like June, July of 25-ish. I know it comes out in 2025 for sure. So first off, and needless to say, spoiler alert, big time. So season 2, I thought, first of all, definitely not what I was expecting. I had heard before it came out that we were going to see a game from the minions perspective, or like the little red dude's perspective, which we kind of got. So I guess it was somewhat true. But I actually really enjoyed the fact that we saw both sides. So I do kind of wish we had seen more of her. I forget her name. I'm really sorry. I'm really bad with names. But I wish we had seen a little bit more of the minions perspective and recruiting and like how they became recruited. Like, what's the difference between a player recruitment and a minion recruitment, right? Because if I'm understanding this correctly, the girl that we were following had a history with the front man. Like she had known him from 10 years ago from what we get from that one scene. So they know each other and they're kind of like, I don't know if they're friends or anything, but whatever. So I guess there's something there, which I'm guessing we're going to see in season 3 a little bit more of. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of on the edge of thinking it was a good idea to do that, but also like, is it a little bit too repetitive from OL Nam being player number 1? A little bit. I think maybe so he's definitely there to control the game a little more. So, you know, the rich people can make sure that Gi-gun doesn't get what he came there for, obviously. But it's super like psychologically cruel to do that for him, which is what I'm expecting from Squid Game. But I feel like he could have done it from behind the scenes a little bit more. I don't know, or like recruited someone else. Although I guess at the point of season 2, any player number 1 would be ultra scrutinized, right? So the other thing is, the last episode of season 2 was not worthy of a last episode to me. Let me explain. There's a big difference to me between a cliffhanger at the end of an episode and a last episode of a season, right? Now, I've had I've had a few people tell me that it's not going to be season 3. It's going to be season 2, part 2, which is why the last episode ended the way it did. But even so, like if you know you're going to release one season in 2 parts, I feel like you have to do a little bit better than that. And what I mean is that there's a difference in a narrative structure, in my opinion, between the end of a scene, the end of an act, and the end of a play with a sequel or something like that, right? And to me, this wasn't the end of a play with a sequel. This was more like the end of an act with something coming right after. To me, the cliffhanger was not, it was like the end of a season, even if it's going to continue later, as the end of season 1 showed, should be the end of a story. Like something wraps up, you know what I mean? And I guess you could say that something wrapped up at the end in terms of the front man killed off his nice persona type of thing. But I don't know, it wasn't like, it just felt like the end of an episode. Do you know what I mean? Please let me know in the comments if I'm making any sense right now, because I really hope I do. I think what would have been more interesting, and I don't even know, to be honest. And then the cop, nothing really happens with the cop. I mean, he spends the whole season looking for the island. Obviously, at the end, we learned that the fisherman is like against them, which was pretty obvious. Like his whole like, what's that drone thing act wasn't really good. It was not convincing anyone, but whatever. I hope we're going to learn more about the fisherman in season 3 and how he's affiliated with the game and such. I'm assuming. Okay, let's get into my theories. The first thing I'm assuming is that the fisherman is not really a fisherman, but he is the one who takes the rich people to and from the island. And so I think that when he found the cop, he was kind of, I don't know. I think he was working, like taking them to and from, and he's like, oh, I don't know, something like that. Or he really was completely unaffiliated, and the rich people found him and paid him, and so he's been on their payroll ever since the cop got to the hospital, if that makes any sense. Okay. Now, my biggest theory, so I heard online that one of the players, not the front man, but another one of the players is actually one of the rich people playing the game who's doing kind of like an OL nom situation where he's like, I don't want to participate in the game. Those are rumors I heard online, but based on those rumors, here's who I think would be the player. I think it's going to be the shaman lady. Shaman. I think she's the rich person, for one, because she's always wearing makeup. And I know you can get eyeliner tattooed, okay? But somehow, everyone else is always looking like a tired turd. And she's just like, I don't know, she looks nice. Her makeup is done. And I don't know, she doesn't look super disheveled compared to the others. The other reason is because she's always like top super proud of herself. She's like full confidence and everything. And then when they got to playing that game, the rainbow game, when they're doing that circle thing, she like crumbled. I think it kind of like settled that it was for real this time. And the last reason why is because I actually rewatched season 1, and I noticed that there are a lot of times in season 1 where all the players are, when they're in their dorm room, and all of them are like voting or something, and they're on the ground, and OL Nam, who we since know was the organizer, is on top of the bunk beds, and he's sitting there and he's almost like an observer, right? Well, I think there's a callback to that, because if you pay attention to season 2, you don't really have to pay attention that closely, but there are a lot of scenes when they're voting, all of the players are on the bottom, like on the concrete, and the shaman lady is on the bunk bed. I think it's a callback, and I think might be one of the rich people. My other theory, which stands on a little bit of shaky ground, is that the Marine might be one of the people. So he's like always super sure of himself and everything, and then I don't know, it's kind of weird. So when they all went with the guns to kind of do their like little coup, and I know people are going to say it's a PTSD reaction where he completely crumbled, but I don't know. I don't know. Part of me is like, yeah, it's just PTSD from when he was actually at war. But part of me is just like, maybe he's a rich person who was really sure of himself because or maybe he was a Marine, or maybe he wasn't a Marine. He was just like super jacked and like full of himself and whatever. I don't know, is he really that jacked? I don't think so, but anyway, I don't judge. I do. Yeah, so I think maybe it might have been a situation where he's like, oh crap, now he's killing people, or he's having to kill people, and maybe it's his first time ever having to kill people, and he's just like, oh, this is the one I thought it was going to be, this is a lot louder, yada yada. I don't know, there's something there. My intuition, my gut is like ringing a little bell here, okay? What do I think else is going to happen? I think we're really going to get more information on the front man and that girl's relationship and how they met and all that. Hear me out. I think maybe Gi-yoon is going to join the bad guys. I don't know. So hear me out. So in season 1, Gi-yoon was all about like, no one gets left behind. We're all in this together. Like even when they were playing that, the ladder game, when they were on glass, even if the other guy was going to cause their death, he was like, no, we can't like push him forward. Do you remember that? And so the whole time, even until the end, when he was fighting with his best friend, he was really like, ready to drop it just because he wasn't okay with people dying. In season 2, I don't know if you've noticed, he was more ready himself to make sacrifices, like human sacrifices. You know, when he's talking to or trying to convince his group of friends of how they should manipulate their coup and be like, oh, some fight should break out, so we distract them and then we fight. And then someone else is like, but if there's a fight that break out, or some fight breaks out, then they might get hurt or something. And he's like, well, we have to sacrifice a few for, you know, whatever. Season 1, Gi-eun wouldn't have done that. And since the whole show is about people, like, what would you do for money kind of a thing, I don't know. I think Gi-eun is like changing, like his core is changing a little bit with the game and the frontman's manipulation, which there's a lot of him like smiling. There are a lot of, I'm not going to insert this, but there's a lot of people being like, oh, did you see that split second where he had a little bit of a smile there and whatever? I think he's kind of satisfied with how Gi-eun is reacting and making decisions and such. So I don't know. That's what I think. Let me know your thoughts and predictions below. I cannot wait for season 3 to come out. I also cannot wait for season 3 of Alice in Borderland to come out. I don't know when it's coming out. I hope you like this video. Like it if you did. Subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.